Recent rains have certainly been welcomed across most of the nation, but in some areas, too much moisture can often lead to nitrogen loss. In this episode, we visit with National Agronomist Derek Emerine and National Agri-Intelligence Manager Steve Seaman on how we can identify nutrient levels with Extractor. Plus, Jason Gregory, Coron brand manager, joins us to talk about Coron and how it might be an agronomic solution to fill the gap for your nitrogen loss on your crop this year. As a special bonus, Patrick Ewan and Greg Smith from the Helena Products Group join us to visit about the art and science of product development for the future. Finally, Jody Lawrence joins us from Nashville to talk about the latest WASDE report and how it might impact the demand for commodities this season. Stay tuned for this episode of FieldLink. All right, and welcome back to FieldLink. I'm your host, Bill Smith, and today we're going to talk about nitrogen and the importance of it. You know, folks, we're facing a lot of weather challenges across the country, from Louisiana all the way up into the Dakotas, from east to west, a lot of rain, which has been really, really important to grow this great crop that we're looking forward to in 24. However, in some spots, we're getting a little bit too much. And joining us today is National Agronomist Derek Emerine. And Derek, let's talk a little bit about moisture and the amount of rain that we've been getting across this great nation of ours. How is that going to impact the profile and really just the overall nitrogen availability for crops here in 24?
It could definitely have an impact. You look at the efficiency of nitrogen commodity fertilizers, and they're anywhere from 30 to 70%. And a lot of that is dictated by how much rain did we get? Did we leach some of that nitrogen? Did we denitrify? And so you start adding in very large rainfall events, and that efficiency is going to go down. Sure. It's going to vary. It's not going to be consistently 30 or 40%. You know, if water stood longer, you're going to be on that lower end. If it didn't stand as long, maybe you only lost 10%. But it's something you need to be aware of.
Yeah, definitely an opportunity for growers to pay attention to. You know, as we're recording this here in the middle of May, we still got plenty of time for a lot of growers across the country to raise a great crop. In some markets, specifically in the South, they've already transitioned, you know, hey, let's pause on corn, transition to soybeans or cotton or another crop. So that changes the agronomic needs for nitrogen as well as other fertility programs. What's kind of that tipping point? What are some ways and techniques that you utilize and coach the Helena representatives to identify, is the enough nitrogen there for that crop?
Sure. So ideally, you know, you do your commodity program. If you get a lot of rain and we see that has happened, typically we're going to recommend let's utilize Extractor. Let's do some plant tissue analysis at key times and kind of do a temperature check. Where are we at? You know, are we deficient? Are we close to deficient? What does the crop look like? And then, you know, once we get to that point, we've got some solutions that we can come with.
Sure.
You know, one being a foliar nitrogen application, could be from Coron, to help supplement some of those losses and get us onto that yield potential that we want.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. You know, we've got some tools to identify, where are we at? And that's so important. And then, you know, if we do have an issue, we've got some alternatives, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But joining us also is Steve Seaman. Steve is the manager for the Helena Agri-Intelligence Group. And Steve, let's talk a little bit more about Extractor that Derek talked about. Walk us through that process and how that can help growers make a better agronomic decision in season.
Yep. Thanks, Bill. You know, as Derek indicated, I mean, Extractor is one of those tools that we have at our disposal. And given the conditions with a lot of the moisture that we're faced with in many areas this year, that means a lot of the nutrients are mobile, right? So are they where they are supposed to be? Are they there at the rates that we put down, or have some of them washed away or leached through the soil? And an Extractor is a tool that helps us gauge how much of those nutrients are actually in the plant. So we're taking tissue tests throughout the season at different times, critical times, and looking at the plant to see what is that plant actually taken up and where does that plant stand. So then, as Derek pointed out, what treatment is best if we want to reach that target yield that we're looking for at the end of the season. So it allows us to really just monitor that crop and really just make sure that we're on target for where we want to be, and really trying to judge it throughout the season and making the best decision given the timing and the stage of the crop. So Extractor is one of those tools that we go out and pull that tissue sample off the plant in random areas throughout the field, and then we're going to get reports back to the Helena staff, and then that Helena staff sales reps will come back out to the grower and help them to really look at where that plant is and help them decide what is the best treatment going forward in order to maximize those yields.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of like, I don't know, I like to break this down, Steve. It's kind of like, I guess, going to the doctor and getting a blood test, if you will, and find out, oh, I need some more iron, I need some more, whatever. And that's exactly what Extractor does. It gives a specific prescription for where that crop is at that point in time.
Yeah, precisely, Bill. That's exactly what it does for us.
Steve, what kind of trends have you seen with Extractor over the years? Are you seeing, a greater need for any specific nutrient, for example?
Derek could be a better judge on that than I would be, but there definitely is a lot of trends that we're seeing within different crops. Obviously, it depends on what crop you're in.
Sure.
What kind of soil you're dealing with. What that uptake is. I mean, some crops deal with the water a little differently, or the mobility of the nutrients a little differently.
Sure.
Yeah, I guess I lean on Derek to give you more specific information there.
Yeah. What kind of trends have you seen, Derek?
So you look across all crops, nitrogen year in, year out is one of the bigger players that we see. Okay. And I think a lot of that has to do with just the nitrogen dynamics in the soil,
right.
And every year we have weather conditions in different regions that right? impact nitrogen availability. And nitrogen is one of the most complex nutrients. There's a lot of ways we can lose the nitrogen that we've applied. So sure. Year in, year out, nitrogen does typically show up in pockets. Potassium is a big one that shows up across all crops. Sulfur is a big one that shows up across all crops. And then after that, you kind of get into more crop-specific. Magnesium has been a bigger player in corn in recent years. Boron in wheat, copper in wheat. But those are kind of the big players.
The big trends or like that. Yeah. So, Steve, kind of back to you a little bit. I often hear the term, hey, we're taking tissue samples. Yeah, Extractor is, we are pulling tissue samples, but we're doing a lot more than that. Can you, I guess, better define what the Extractor is and how it's different from your typical tissue sample that, somebody might send into an extension agent, for example?
A lot of your tissue samples that you're going to get out there are going to show really where that plant is. And with Extractor, we're not just going to show them where that is, but we also take and look at geography, geographical differences. And we have agronomists across the United States that help us determine what those target levels are by crop, by growth stage for that given area. So many times when you look at a lot of tissue reports, they're going to be pretty general, right? They're going to be representative of a whole United States or some much larger geography. And we really try to be specific to that area, that crop, that growth stage. On top of just looking at where that crop stands, we're then going to make a recommendation on, hey, is that plant in need of some kind of a treatment? And then we'll leave it up to, the staff that we have in Helena, along with that grower, to make the best decision on what they need to do to treat that and to get that plant fixed up to be where it needs to be.
So what I'm hearing you say, Steve, is yes, with Extractor, we certainly run through the science of the testing of the tissue to identify where the nutrient deficiencies may be, but we're also leaning on the science to lead us to, hey, here's an agronomic recommendation that makes sense based on the data.
That's correct, and it's years of data that we're looking at too. So it's not just taking just that one year, that one season, but we've got many years at this point of looking at data from tissue, from those results, and really help factor in what that recommendation is. So we're constantly trying to working to fine tune what that best recommendation is, and what we're seeing in the soil, given the soil type, and all those other factors that I mentioned before. The plant, the soil type, plant stage, the crop itself.
And I think that's a great point. We've got years of data and, somewhere around 20, 25 years of data altogether. Of course, Extractor is not quite that old, but we do have a lot of that data. That helps tell a broader story for sure. And in this year, as we're kicking into 24, mid-May here, we've got some weather challenges, as we touched on the front end of this podcast. And I'm going to pull in Jason Gregory. He is the brand manager for nutritionals and Coron products. Jason, let's talk about Coron. Derek touched on it. It might be a solution for some growers that are using Extractor, that when those reports come back and say, boy, you're a little short in nitrogen, Coron might be an opportunity.
Might be. I shouldn't. Oh, man. Coron's always an opportunity, if you ask me. Of course, I joke and I laugh, and y'all around here like to give me a hard time. I'm a old fired football coach, right? And I was an offensive guy, so I'm always trying to score, which is why I love Coron, right? So we're always trying to, or I'm always trying to push yields. Whether it seems like it's a perfect growing year or a year like this year, I always say Coron's an opportunity. But particularly, you're right. When you start thinking about the way this thing has played out this year and the challenges we've had in different parts of the country, I mean, you're seeing that nitrogen that you've put out there. I mean, it has leached, it's denitrified, it's possibly, we hadn't been particularly hot, so volatilization probably hadn't been quite as bad as it has been on certain years, but it's going somewhere, right? While Derek was talking, I hate to do this, I relate everything back to football, but if you've ever seen that nitrogen, life cycle, right, or nitrogen cycle, I mean, that looks like a play that Lane Kiffin drew up, right? So it seems like we're always playing defense to our nitrogen trying to go away, right?
Right.
And if you talked about 25 years of being around, and Coron's been around 25 plus years, and it is what we like to call the OG of nutrient use efficiency, right? I mean, we've been trying to hold on to nitrogen for a long time, and we found different ways that we can make the nitrogen cycle more efficient for us. But for years and years and years, even while we've been working to make that more efficient, we've always had that opportunity to come in and supplement with our Coron technology, our controlled release nitrogen, over the top of a crop. And then, in 2018, we had the opportunity to add ENC formulation technology to it. And that just made it even more efficient, and you start thinking about the actual efficiency of getting that nitrogen into the plant with that controlled release technology and the resin base that's there, and holding on that plant, and feeding it over a period of a couple weeks. It's been something that has been productive for us time and time again throughout the 25-year history of Coron with Helena.
Well, you've certainly talked. Coron's been on the market for a long time. Clearly, the industry leader, one of the first foliar nitrogens in the marketplace 25 plus years ago. And then you touched on something really important, I think, that sometimes gets overlooked. The ENC technology that was added, 5-6 years ago to make it Metra. Let's talk a little bit about what ENC brings to the party with Coron.
The interesting part about that is I always tell the story. I was in the room when the concept took place. Now, I wasn't the brand manager at the time.
Sure.
So I wasn't actually one that launched it, but just sitting around when everybody's always heard, if you've listened to this FieldLink podcast, you've heard of Johnny Roberts.
Sure.
And we were just discussing Coron one day, and I'd see the light just kind of go off in him. He's like, well, I wonder if we put ENC with Coron, And then as we got to exploring it and thinking about it, we take a look at that ENC formulation technology, that the kind of the backbone, the steroid, if you will, that makes ENC, and we were able to take that out, extract it, and put it into the Coron technology. And what that does is it further enhances that nutrient uptake of all of our Coron formulations, whether we're talking about 25, 25B, 10, 10B. We're even working right now on adding that to the specialty group and our full bore technology. Every time we have added ENC formulation technology to our Coron platform, we've seen a bump in yield. Also, it also helps with any type of tank mix issues that you have there a little bit as well. So just time and time again, you're getting a better overall product and a better overall plant response with the ENC formulation technology.
So you touched a little bit on, one of the great things about ENC is the compatibility piece here. So as growers are taking a look, and Derek, you would know this for sure, taking a look at utilizing potentially Coron to help offset some of those nitrogen needs, there's an opportunity for them to mix other products with it as well to save on that trip.
Absolutely.
Yeah, fungicides, insecticides,
yes.
Not a problem, correct?
Yes. Fungicides, insecticides, other nutritionals. If you have a potassium deficiency or a sulfur deficiency, or we have a lot of opportunities where we can kill a lot of birds with one trip across that field.
We can just give that little touch of nitrogen, which the crop may be needing this year. And speaking of crop, we're not just talking corn here or cotton. Soybeans are going to have a need for nitrogen, right, Derek?
Oh, absolutely. True. Soybeans make their nitrogen. Everybody knows that. But in reality, they only make about 40% of their nitrogen. The rest of that is coming from the soil or is going to have to come from somewhere else. So there's definitely an opportunity there as well. And then we for sure see it in cotton, nitrogen.
Rice. We could keep going down the crop.
Absolutely.
Wheat. Great opportunity for some of those wheat growers that might have some decent crops this year. There's some pockets that are looking pretty good. A little kick of nitrogen could take it from good to great for sure.
Yeah. You get in that reproductive cycle too. Don't forget about boron and how important that. I was watching a video yesterday, us, our farm nerds, we like to kind of get on YouTube and see what's out there. But just, it's nothing new, but the guy was just talking about, how much boron likes to leach, with the rain that we've had and how mobile that is, and hitting that with one of our 25B or 10B formulations, again, is something that just can help set that plant into that reproductive cycle a little bit better. And particularly if you get an opportunity to, one of my favorite, even though it's not really under my brand, but one of my favorite new products, Full Scale, you get an opportunity to pair those two together.
Right.
And of course, y'all give me a hard time. Y'all put me on social media from time to time and what I was quoted a couple of years ago saying that really sets that plant on fire, and it does, but having the ability to be in the field as a product manager for years and years and years, seeing those two, the synergistics of those two products are just phenomenal, particularly on soybeans. And somebody once told me a soybean doesn't know what it likes, but I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt, it does like Coron and Full Scale. I have seen that time and time again. So.
Yeah, good combination, for those growers as we're taking a look at fall, put a planned Coron hit. Boy, take a look at Full Scale to add with it. We don't want to just be throwing products out there. Obviously, talk to your Helena representative for the best situation. And really, as Steve mentioned, lean on that Extractor report. That's going to help really drive a lot of decisions agronomically and to make the best agronomic decision in 24 and for any year for that matter. Any other tips, Derek, as we're taking a look, this rain, it's looking to pull off, but, most of the country, gosh, we can plant this country in about 7 good days. And we're about 30-40% across the country planted now. But any other watch outs, any other advice as we take a look into the balance of the season?
I would just say stay the course. Like you said, we can make up a lot of time. There's a lot. It's not too far gone. We have a lot of opportunity. Things can turn around very quickly, and really rely on the tools that we have. And, Helena really prides itself on, we want to make the right agronomic recommendation. And we have a lot of great solutions, and we can help lead you in the right direction. And, for me being an agronomist, I think it's important to say, it may not always be one of our Helena products.
Sure.
If we've gotten 15 plus inches of rain, we may recommend more nitrogen fertilizer.
Right.
And so I think it's important to understand that at Helena, we want to make sure we do the right agronomic solution.
Yep.
And our people in the field can help you make that determination. We look at a lot of different things to make that call. But that I think it's important to share. We want to do what's right for you.
Yeah.
Because if you're not successful, we're not successful.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. While we're talking about some products today and we're talking a little bit about some technology, at the end of the day, we want to make the best recommendation for our partners. And that's the long-term solution. So we certainly want to work hard to bring the most novel and cutting-edge technology like products like Coron, Metro with the ENC formulation technology, and Extractor with some of the new technology involved there to help guide that grower. But at the end of the day, we want to make the best recommendation for the farmer. Steve, Extractor, while we're talking about it right now, it's on top of our mind because of all the moisture. But Extractor is one of those products, tools, if you will, that shouldn't be just saved for the rainy day. It should be a part of your system, correct?
That's right, Bill. I mean, Extractor, while we're talking about it here today as a tool that we want to use because of the rainy season and just different situations that we're dealing with in the field, it really should be part of just the normal year. If you have the best year on record, it still is a valuable tool that I think we need to keep in our toolbox to really monitor that crop and monitor the progress of that crop. Because no matter what we're dealing with throughout the year, whether it's an excellent, perfect year or whether it's a struggling year, Extractor is going to help you really identify where that plant is to really help you maximize the returns and maximize your yield on that crop. So, it's just, you think about a bodybuilder even, right? I mean, they should have the best things going on in their body, and they're probably taking more blood tests and getting their body analyzed more than anyone is, because they're really trying to maximize how their bodies are going to operate and what their bodies can do. And so, whether they're sick and tired or whether they're having the best year of their life, I mean, they're still pulling blood tests to really get an understanding of where they are to maximize what they can actually do.
Yeah, good point. And Extractor, I think it's also important to point out, Steve, Extractor is just one piece of the entire Agri-Intelligence system. And folks can learn more about what Agri-Intelligence has to offer by visiting with their Helena representative to learn more about the entire offering. Guys, I want to thank you for joining us here today on this episode of the FieldLink podcast as we take a look at Plant 24 and continuing on through that journey. I want to welcome everybody to the FieldLink podcast studio. Today, we're going to explore a little bit about the differentiation in Helena, and we're going to talk about the Helena Products Group. And joining me for the Helena Products Group from Memphis, Tennessee, is Patrick Ewan. Patrick is the general manager. Patrick, welcome to FieldLink.
Yeah, thanks, Bill.
All right. Also, Greg Smith. Greg is joining us here in the FieldLink podcast studio. Greg, welcome to FieldLink.
Thanks, Bill.
Greg is our Director of Innovation, and we're going to learn a little bit about the Helena Products Group today as we talk about some of the things that are taking place in that particular group, but also how it's a part of the overall arching strategy. So, Patrick, tell us a little bit about the Helena Products Group and what makes it a little bit different from other organizations out there.
Yeah, great question, Bill. I think, we've got a industry-leading distribution company that we work with, tremendous suppliers really around the globe, and Helena Products is certainly a department within Helena, and what we do is we work with a lot of different suppliers on their technologies. I guess, if I were asked simply, how do you explain what we do, we make things better. We really look for differentiation in terms of not only making it different, but making it different with a purpose. So we can bring growers a product that probably, if you look at across the industry, a lot of people wouldn't go the extra mile to probably do what we do. But ultimately, our goal is to bring high-performing products that have a measurable benefit to our customer group.
Yeah, that's an interesting approach, certainly, as you mentioned, a leading distributor, but we're taking these products, and you summed it up really well, taking products and just making them better. That's as simple as it can be. Greg Smith, Director of Innovation, tell us a little bit about how your team is structured and how you make some of these products a little bit better for growers.
Yeah, we've got kind of three departments inside, brand. We got a brand division, and our brand team basically is looking at these products that Patrick mentions with our suppliers. And then we have an R&D team, and then we have a formulation and a lab group. So basically, we're getting these ideas from the field and trying to kind of basically fit these agronomic solutions that potentially come from a grower or from ours, where we would maybe have a gap or something and find an actual product and basically go and try to develop something and take an innovation and bring it to life. So with our team, we will basically take it, do 2 to 3 years worth of independent third-party replicated trials on a product. And first and foremost, what we're really trying to do is like Patrick said, make something different, because a grower, we always have grower standards. And ultimately what we want to bring is something unique, something that actually brings an ROI is our first real test, is because if it doesn't bring an ROI, it's just another product. And we don't need another product. They've got a lot of products in that space, and a grower's looking for something to actually take them to that next level. And our products are those ones that really kind of can maybe take that grower to that next level.
I think it's interesting how we talk about there's a lot of choices out there that growers have to make. Everything from fertility to seed. And then, of course, all of these products, they're all over. I mean,
vetting them is it's such a, let's just take biologicals for, that space right now. Everything's
it's a hot buzzword, right?
Yeah, everybody's talking about it, but ultimately it's the needle in the haystack. It's muddies the water. It's confusing. We've been in the biostimulant game for 20 plus years, but on the biocontrol side, that's where we're spending a lot of our time and trying to have a platform that we can go to. And I think our customers trust our products, and they look to us, and not only our customers, but our actual employees that will go to a grower want us to bring something to them that actually they can put in front of a grower and know that it actually works. And, ultimately we're, spending, I think our last year was, $4.5 million in third-party replicated trials across the country, just slightly less than 600 trials, 42 crops. So, and I think it was close to 38 or 39 states. So
wow.
We're really trying to kind of find that and vet it and ultimately make sure that if we're going to put something out there, that a grower can trust it and know that it works.
Yeah, it sounds like, Greg, what you're trying to do is take the mystery out of the whole process for that producer.
There's enough confusion in that marketplace. All you got to do is pick up any kind of a ag article or magazine, and there's pages and pages of products. And what we're trying to do is have a platform there that our growers can kind of come to, and our sales folks can take to these customers that want something in that space. And biologicals seems to be obviously the hot topic, but we've got a lot more than that. We've got our value-added product line. We've got seed treatments, and obviously here at the show we're launching one of the Quick Shot, and it's just a nutritional fluency agent. So it's not just biologicals. So we're obviously in a lot more stuff than that. But
well, and I think you touch on a good point. There's certainly a lot of products out there, as you mentioned, referenced pick up a magazine. Oh my gosh, and walk around this trade show. I mean, there's hundreds of different new organizations and that sort of thing promoting a product. So, Patrick, tell us a little bit how your team kind of vets through those relationships, partners with different suppliers from around the world.
Yeah, I think, Bill, I know we talk a lot about products, and I think, as Greg was saying, we've got a robust portfolio with a lot of different categories, and really what that is aimed at is bringing, really sound solutions to our customers. I think one thing, too, that we look at here at Helena and at HPG is, it's going to be about products, but you got to have really great people to really take those products and be able to position them with our customers. And as we talk about products, we talk about people. It's really, if I step back from it, Bill, I'd say it's really about the customer experience. So we do spend a lot of time thinking what the customer experience is going to be like. We can tell them about our products, we can show them our product, but until they get on their farm and field, they really don't know what that is. And it's they want a high performing product, but they also want knowledgeable people there to build relationships and trust. So that's probably where we really start as a company is, is finding the right people that have those relationships or can bridge those relationships to really centered around trust to bring a good agronomic consultative approach to the market, business approach.
Well, yeah, I think you talk about something that is often overlooked, and that is the secret sauce, and that's the people behind the scenes that are really, Greg, doing the research, but also as that research evolves, being able to communicate that information.
Yeah, and I think it crosses over to your question, Bill. Is Greg and his group probably get 230 different suppliers coming in on an annual basis. That just doesn't happen unless you're really doing. You've got a relationship and you're really doing something that's for the betterment of the industry. So that says a lot about what we're doing. But I think our people, our relationships, outside of really adjuvants or some formulation technologies, we really do rely on other technology providers to come in and work with us. And the beauty of what we do is we work with so many different ones. We can put together different types of concepts that probably somebody individually out there can't do, or they can't see it. We just get a lot of information, a lot of technologies. Greg's team's got a robust group of what I would argue is some of the best R&D folks in the business that they're really working with other third parties to quantify, are we doing what we think they're doing? And if we bring them out, I would say they're thoroughly tested. We've got some really good data that's showing statistical advantages. And, like I tell growers all the time, it doesn't matter really what I'm telling you, it does, right. but what really matters is you take, I can show you the data, but take it and try it. See what you think. It's your part.
It's walk in these shoes for a while, right? Give it a try. As we talk a little bit about the people, it's always important to have the right people in the right seats. And Greg, one of the things that we're going to be doing in July is we're going to invite growers to Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah.
To preview some of these things
day.
Your team and Patrick, your team's been working on for the last year or two.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the Innovation Expo.
Well, I was just going to comment a little bit on what Patrick said. He mentioned that agronomy, and I think it really starts there, and it starts there with our team. Actually, whether it's you're developing a product, because agronomically it's got to be the right fit, and we've got a great agronomy team and Agri-Intelligence team, and then it kind of leads into, like you said, this Innovation Expo where we really combine all three aspects, whether it's AI, agronomy, and then our group, the Helena Products Group. And basically what we're doing there is it's really, an educational day for our sales folks, but ultimately for our customers. And what we're really trying to do is, highlight some of the products that we potentially maybe have launched last year, potentially launching here, like Quick Shot will be obviously in our trials, some pipeline stuff that we potentially could be having, but it's just a chance for our customers to come and see what we're doing and ultimately experience some of the stuff that they may or may not have actually had a chance to use on their farm, and get to kind of walk through our plots and see it. So it's good because our customers are usually with their sales folks, and Patrick says it's that trust part, and it's that we have a philosophy, that trust but verify thing, and what we're really trying to do is give them an opportunity to look at something and like Patrick said, just go take it and try a little bit on your farm and see what you think.
Patrick, the Innovation Expo really allows those growers to walk those fields, to see what's happening right now, what's coming forward in the pipeline. Can you share with us the other side of that too? It's not just out in the field. Growers are going to have the opportunity to go to our laboratories and learn about something you touched on earlier, formulation technologies, and kind of experience that side of our business.
I think it's really twofold, Bill. I think it's not only, we view here at Helena Products as, our internal Helena people as customers,
sure,
both retail and our wholesale group, and they're bringing customers in. But I think it does a couple of things. They see our products that we bring and we out in the field, and we do have customer facing, with them being the customer, our own people that are working to educate, train, position on the products. But they get to come in and kind of, so to speak, see the people behind the curtain and say, hey, this is what these folks do. And they get to put a face with a name. And I think it's real interesting every innovation day to have a conversation and hear our folks go, well, I had no idea you guys did this. This is awesome. And I think back to last year, talking about the impossible just takes longer, and had a lot of good discussions around what does that really mean. And I think it really sums up what we do is we do the hard things to make things different. And sometimes it really takes getting folks in the building to see that. This is not a shop that we're just putting private labels together. We're really, really doing some really innovative things that are thoroughly tested that I would argue in a lot of these product categories, it's a change for the industry.
I think that's so important to highlight. You referenced it. We're not just putting a new label on an old molecule.
That's right.
In many cases.
That's absolutely correct.
We're making changes that are going to impact growers and produce more value, whether that's in yield, whether that's saving them time, or just simply making them more efficient.
And I would say, Bill, too, is, and they're tested. So if they're not doing that, Greg's team is not going to push them forward to launch them. It's just the way it works.
Let's peel that back a little bit more, Greg, to Patrick's point. You mentioned we've got a lot of companies that come and knock on the door and want us to try things. What are the standards? How do you say, hey, this one's going to move forward in the portfolio?
Well, first off, it has to be what the grower's already using. And ultimately, like Patrick was saying, I think we're more of a boutique. We're small enough, we're nimble enough, and we're not trying to paint the world with a product. We're trying to go after the customers that actually want to take their yields to the next level. You can't have products that are going to be it for everybody. You have to have very segmented and stuff that's gonna fit. And we have the opportunity, because of how small we are, to kind of take something and make it really, really special. But ultimately, if it doesn't pass our ROIs, which is a grower ROI, and if it's not going to put more bushels or pounds in that grower's pocket, it just doesn't make it. And we kill more products than we actually launch. It's by far, if it's less than 10%, I bet you it's less than 5% of the products that we trial actually make it. It's just, we're really trying to find that next thing to get that yield. And it's ultimately a needle in the haystack, and you find some every now and then, and you just got to keep going at it. And we have really great people that are formulating, and it's taking 1 and 1 sometimes is 2, sometimes 1 and 1 is 3, and we're always looking for that 1 and 1 equals 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, sounds to me, Greg, you continue to take the mystery out of that for that producer. If it's 5% of the products that go through your process make it to the farm gate, that's really important for growers to understand that. Put a lot of research in behind that.
Yeah, it's vetting all these things is our responsibility, because ultimately, like Patrick says, we got 2 customers to look after. Obviously, the grower, the end user, and then our sales folks that we ultimately sell to and provide products for them to go and take to that grower. So we've got 2 masters to look after, but ultimately the first one is obviously the grower, and if it doesn't meet those standards, that model just isn't going to work for us.
And I think Bill, too, to Greg's point with our internal customers, I think it's really important. They're the ones that are in these communities. They have the relationship with the customer. They're a trusted advisor. They want to make sure what they're bringing that it does what we say it's to do. So that's we think. I know Greg and his team, and
their credibility's on the line.
Absolutely,
they're the people that go to church with the same folks. They coach their little league teams. They are the 4-H leaders. They have the same PTAs. Yes, they've got to have confidence in the products.
So sometimes, that's one of the other reasons we do such extensive R&D, because that product's us. That's us in that local community, and that's our reputation there. So we want to make sure it's doing what we say it's going to do.
Yeah, I think that's important for listeners to understand, and our audience here to understand that if it's got a Helena name on it, a Helena Products name on it, they can trust that it's been vetted out, and we've got confidence to put it on our acres.
Yeah, and one thing I was going to mention too, to Greg's point, is what's coming out of R&D is we've got some, I'll use the example here at the show, really highlighting some points on grounded. I mean, if you step back from grounded and look at all the products that would fall in what probably be coined as adjuvants, I think the better job we do of really explaining what grounded does, I think it's making herbicides move from good to great on pre-emergence. And, many times a customer that's buying it, we probably need to spend a little more time on the front end of saying, hey, do you want to make your pre-emergence great? This product can do it, and it's all about the customer experience. So he sees it, we can point that out, and we've noted that to him. I think that's a tremendous example of something that's very different that's in the market that probably needs a little more positioning up front, because it's really making these pre-emergent herbicides great.
In Patrick, a product like Grounded, it is our leading adjuvant. It is an adjuvant that really you can definitely trust. It's been in the market for 26 plus years, but it's created, how many thousands of acres have we treated with that? Millions of acres globally, and it continues to provide the value to that producer by making his or her herbicide program better. Greg, what are some things that growers can experience this year? We touched a little bit around the expo coming up in Memphis on July 17th. What are some things that your team wants to try to highlight this year?
Well, obviously, we've got the product that we're kind of launching right now is Quick Shot, but we're going to have Full Scale again. It's going to be a huge product for us. Resurge is obviously another product. We have our new second generation liquid chisel is going to be in our trials. We also got a new product called Rage D-Tech that we're going to potentially be launching here in September. It's going to be in there. I think we got some seed treatments that we're doing. We've got Seed Shield Select, which just came out last year, and we're going to have it again in our trials. So it's going to be
a wide range of products.
Yeah, wide range of products. But obviously, we've got some nutritionals. Obviously, Jason Gregory, who's likely was on the podcast here earlier this week, he's got a whole new liquid line that's coming on that side of it. So we've got some kickstand products there. So really excited about that. We've got a 9% zinc and then kind of a multi-package product that he's got. We haven't quite got a name on that one yet. It's going to be exciting because we've this liquid line is going to be really, really good.
I think it's fun that growers can experience this, what's happening now, and what could be happening in the future at the expo. That's the stuff coming down the road to help them make their farm more profitable.
To build on what Greg's saying too, is we get asked all the time, where do you guys get these ideas? That's such an awesome thing we didn't think about. But we talk about people coming into HPG, whether it's trading or it's Innovation Day, is we get really, really great ideas from our internal colleagues or our customers. And sometimes it starts with a customer that says, hey, have you guys ever thought about this? So when people think about Helena products, just know that the products we're building, typically the ideas are coming from the field.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's not just a think tank of people dreaming up ideas. The actual, Greg, help me if I'm off here, but 75% of those ideas come from the field.
Yeah, it's higher than that. I think we went back and looked at that. I think it's closer to 85% of the products that we launch are actually new product concepts that come from the field. And it's actually, typically, it's going to be a grower asking a sales rep about, I have a problem on my farm, and he needs help with a solution. And then we vet it, and it's not likely just him that has that problem. It's likely fairly widespread. And I think that's the uniqueness, and where I go back to that boutique part. We're small enough to actually go, well, maybe that is just a northern, corn growing area product. And,
sure.
And that may not fit all companies where they want to just be in California and especially crops and trees and vines and grapes and watermelons. But we're specific enough and small enough that if it meets a need we can actually fulfill that in a certain geographic area and take care of it. So,
Wow. Lots of neat stuff coming out of the Helena Products Group. Patrick, is there anything else we want to add here as we wrap up this episode?
Well, I'd just like to say to our audience and folks listening, if you want to learn more about Helena products, we'd love to, if we don't have a relationship with you, love to have one, talk about our products and see how we can bring you a good experience on your farm, and maybe you can bring us some ideas. But if you are using our products, thank you for your business, and look forward to getting in and having a productive 2024.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank both of you for joining us as we talk about the Helena Products Group, and remind everybody to mark your calendars, July 17th in Memphis, Tennessee. Come join us and learn more about some of these innovative products from the Helena Products Group. And welcome back to FieldLink. And joining us from Nashville is our guest analyst, Jody Lawrence. Jody, welcome to FieldLink.
Thank you, Bill. It's good to be back.
Hey, Jody, WASDE Report recently came out last Friday. Boy, shaking the markets up a little bit. Might be an opportunity for some growers to potentially take advantage of some grain markets.
Yeah, it's been an interesting last 3 weeks because the markets have certainly rallied into several different stories. The biggest one is wheat. It's up over $1.50 in the last 6 weeks, with the biggest spike coming in the last 3. Russia has had some freeze problems, I guess you would call it, the wheat came out of dormancy and then they got hit with a stretch of cold weather that's definitely caused the markets to put some premium on some yield loss. And the Black Sea region continues to be dry. So it's really hard to identify how much yield might have been lost out of the Russian wheat crop. But to add $1.50, there are some people thinking that it's significant enough that they no longer want to be short, because the funds have cut their short position by almost 60% over the last 3 weeks. And when you get that kind of volume just from one specific trade group, you're going to get big rallies. Unfortunately, that has helped corn. Corn's up almost 40 cents during that time. Beans are rallying also. And beans really have a little bit more specific news coming out of South America, because in Brazil, their southernmost province, Rio Grande do Sul, which is responsible for about 15% of all their bean production, has just had an enormous, historically wet, like 30, 40 inches of rain over the last 3-4 weeks that has damaged the crop and obviously stopped harvest. So beans have got a little bit of a story. Corn, you could attach the fact how wet it is in the U.S. While everyone I'm talking to, in the fat part of the Corn Belt, especially the Western Corn Belt, they're happy for the rain, and they certainly are not sweating getting the crop in the ground yet, because this probably is going to be the best subsoil moisture profile going into Memorial Day in June that we've seen, in 6 or 7. Well, it would have to be, I guess, since 2019, the last time we had this much rain and this much flooding.
Right. Soil's definitely getting recharged out there in those in that Western Corn Belt market. Getting a little bit late and long in the tooth. It looks like this week that we're recording this podcast, rain's still in the future here this week. But it's amazing how much corn and soybeans, for that matter, go in the ground in a matter of a handful of good running days.
Yeah, and everybody realizes it with the advances in technology, and you look at in between the self-driving and the GPS and everything that's in the planters, and the ability to get in, thousands and thousands of acres just on one farm over the course of 3 or 4 days. The market wants to pay attention to it, because I think what they're paying attention to is not that they don't think the crop will be planted, but it does start to push back pollination dates. And the closer you get to mid-July as opposed to late June or 4th of July, that becomes part of the issue that I think the market had to add some risk premium simply because of that, because we're going to have a lot of corn as we sit here on May 13th. We're going to have well over half the crop planted past May 15th, which is kind of, historically the prime date to have most of your crop planted.
Right. Let's peel this back a little bit, Jody. With your customers and folks out in the Western Corn Belt and that wheat market, with wheat prices kind of jumping up here over the last handful of days, what are some opportunities for wheat producers in that region to take a position?
The base for all of our recommendations is we try to identify solid rallies, regardless of the reason. Is it weather? Is it fund related? Is it politically related? Whatever is driving it, and take advantage of selling those rallies. And we've been easing into sales in 10 to 15% increments every 30 or over the last 30 or 40 cents. And today we're up another almost 30 cents, which is great. The news out of Russia continues to motivate short covering and drive the market higher. But it's one of those things. The best marketing plan is to have your orders in with your buyers and sell rallies. And the reason why you want it, especially these days with your orders in, we may get a lot of news overnight while we're asleep that the market runs up, hits your price, and then falls back by the time we get up and you get into a position to pick up the phone and call your elevator. So always have those orders in, because the overnight volatility is becoming a much bigger deal, especially when we're talking about wheat. And if wheat goes, it's going to pull everything else with it to a certain extent.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier too. With corn kind of climbing, there's a chance we might see some $5 corn. And who would have thought, 30, 60 days ago?
Yeah, that was really, I think, we always talk about the price, and when we did the mental health episode, that there were some dark days for everybody thinking that 440, 450 may be, the price that everybody was going to go into the summer with. But with a lot of different, all the things we've talked about, corn got up to 495 and 3/4. We've talked several times about the 32 out of the last 34 years. Corn has exceeded the January high in between February and the end of the year. So we're within 7 cents of that at 502 and 3/4. Beans even got a little bit closer last week. So you've got some seasonals, you've got some things working in your favor, and it won't take too much to get the December corn future price with a 5 in front of it. And I think it's such a big psychological number, regardless of what your basis is, that there'll be some opportunities either to do some hedge to arrive contracts with your elevators. Maybe you put it just on as a hedge in your trading account, and to see how planning finishes. A lot of different options, but any 35, 40 cent rally in corn, it should be sold. And that's what hopefully we're going to get a good opportunity to do it.
Yeah, good opportunity for growers to be paying attention and working closely with their traders on that corn side of things. Let's deep dive into the soybean side of things. You touched on something there. The rally's kind of happening there. We got some challenges in South America, specifically Brazil, southern Brazil, parts of Argentina. Jody, they've certainly, as you mentioned, they've had a lot of rain down there. And the other thing I think it's important for American producers to know is the infrastructure simply isn't there like it is that we're accustomed to here in the northern part of America. They're used to having just no storage. So a lot of that crop is going to dry down out in the field. That's going to make it tough for delivering.
Yeah, and you think about it when we're used to paved roads or hard gravel roads, and they're out driving down muddy pothole filled road, trying to drive a truck with a couple thousand bushels of beans on it through a driving storm and on terrible roads. That it's always been the infrastructure in Brazil that creates challenges for them. And then when you add on all this rain, it really is complicated matters. And to a lesser extent, the Argentina or the port strike by the Argentine labor union, the new president is trying to do some pretty strong financial cuts, and everybody wants higher wages because inflation is running wild. So you've got a handful of things, thankfully, picking off a little bit of that excess supply that we thought we were going to have 2-3 months ago.
Yeah, definitely a lot of global dynamics as well as weather impacting the grain markets today. Jody, I want to thank you for joining us here on this episode of FieldLink. Thanks for joining us from Nashville.
Thank you, Bill. Everybody be safe while you're planting.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of FieldLink. Be sure to ask your Helena representative if Coron Metra with ENC formulation technology is a fit for your farm this season.